So welcome, Chris Chambers. Lovely to have you along to this Let's Chat session. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Michelle Payne. I'm one of the programme managers at the Inform team. And like I said, with Chris Chambers from Ordnance Survey.
Hi, Michelle.
Welcome,
Great to be
Chris.
here. Thank you very much. As you said, I'm Chris Chambers. I'm the head of the PSGA at Ordnance Survey.
Oh, lovely to have you, Chris, and thanks for taking the time out today. Well, we'll just crack on straight with it. Can you just tell us a little bit about the programme that you had to deliver?
Yeah, the PSJA is the largest commercial contract we've ever had with government. It's a contract with the Geospatial Commission, part of the Cabinet Office. And it basically is a £1 billion investment in new data, in new ways to access that data, and in freedoms for our customers to share data. So three really important elements underpinning that investment. It also, the PSJA also underpins the business as usual activities of Ordnance Survey over a 10-year period. So it's both an investment project, but also underpinning a significant proportion of Ordnance Survey's BAU activities.
And thinking about that, Chris, thanks for that overview. Why does change communications play such an important part in an initiative such as this?
Oh, it's massive. The PSJA is the biggest change that's happened to Ordnance Survey in decades, basically. So if you imagine that around 800 or 80 to 90% of Ordnance Survey staff are affected by the PSJA in a positive way and in a change to their working practices. So if you think about those BAU activities, you've got surveyors, you've got technology programmers, you've got customer support staff, you've got people ranging all the way from customer support centre all the way up to heads of, who are starting to look at different ways of working. So in terms of looking at different ways of working and trying to understand what this new contract means for them. And the contract for the BAU elements very much meant that they had new ways of working. So we had a single customer who we had to meet their requirements. There was a series of key performance indicators that we need to hit on an annual basis. So we're very much being measured by a third party on our performance. So trying to change those behaviours away from where targets are self-imposed or by our end users, very much to a performance-related contract, commercial contract with a third party. So changing those behaviours was really key. The second bit around the investment was very much around, change there is all about those three things I said earlier. Changing the data that we capture, changing the technology that we use and the ways of accessing that data, and also changing freedoms for our third parties. Going back to that, that's a huge change for us to both deliver, but also for our teams to understand. They need to understand what they need to do, they need to understand why they're doing it, and they need to understand the benefits to our customers. So all of this is a huge amount of change for the nearly 800 people within Ordnance Survey who it is affecting. And also, they need to support the nearly 10,000 customers that are being impacted by that change as well. So really important to make sure that our teams understood the change and were bought into it, so that they could pass on that to our customers.
And so thinking about that, how does working with an external partner help deliver in that work?
So I've always been a big fan of get the right expertise at the right time. So when the PSGA started back in 2020, we didn't have the expertise in Ordnance Survey at the time to deliver that sort of change management. So what we went to do is went out to the market and we looked around for who was the most appropriate organisation, because we wanted them to bring in their expertise that they'd had from many previous customers to try and assist us in how we could deliver the best possible change for our teams. So we were really obviously keen to try and get the best possible people in to do that role, working with us, and that's what we did, and we found Inform via that process as well, which is really great.
And would you think that working side by side as we have, bouncing ideas off each other, how do you view us in terms of that sort of external sort of view in? How did you find that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting word you've used there, where you've talked about bringing an external view in, whereas actually from day one, I always treated the Inform team as part of the team, actually, rather than an external view. So I think it's really important to me to make sure that you were part of the team, and that we very much used the expertise you have got from outside, but brought that in to make sure that the team understood that, used that expertise to deliver for us, for Ordnance Survey. So whilst we've all got external expertise, we've all got external experiences, but it's really important to bring that into the team. And I think that's what we did very quickly with Michelle and Robin, looking at working with us to make sure that we could get the most from that learning from their previous experience, but also to make sure we implemented it within our team structure as well really quickly. But I think going back to what I said earlier, we don't have that experience. We don't have that change management within Ordnance Survey. And it was critical to try and, I think the three main areas were probably trying to explore ideas with you. So that's one thing I really valued, was actually if I had an idea or you had an idea, we had a conversation together, a two-way conversation about an idea how to make the change happen. I think the other thing was looking to you and Robin as critical friends and advisors. So I really value your view. I really valued your inputs the whole way through the investment and the change, because I think you have that experience that I don't have. You want to surround yourselves with experts who know things that you don't, and in this instance, that exactly happened. We should make use of the knowledge that you and Robin and the team back at Inform had, make the most value from that as part of the team.
I think, yeah, it's true to say that, working with you and the team, we never see it as anything else but being very much part of the team. And that's evident in the way that we work, the relationships that we've built since during that time. And it's something that I've really, really enjoyed. It's been a really, really great experience.
Yeah, same with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah. But thinking about the way in which the team worked, and also thinking about your own recent personal experience, I wanted to talk about how using technology such as Microsoft Teams and SharePoint has enabled the program to continue working throughout what has been a really, really sort of difficult time.
It's fundamental. We couldn't have delivered what we have delivered without technology. It would have been impossible. We went to the contract started on the 1st of April 2020, and you'll remember that the lockdown happened in March 2020. So to try and start this implementation, to try and do this change management, starting from day one during lockdown at its worst time, it was absolutely fundamental to try and use technology. We had to, because all of our staff were based remotely. And even in standard times at Ordnance Survey, you have people who are based remotely. Not everyone is in the Southampton headquarters. I think it's about 50%. Whereas actually, the other 50% of the people, those 800 people we were talking about, are based remotely in the field. You've got surveyors out there. You've got people in IT. You've got customer support staff all around Great Britain. So even without the pandemic and lockdown, it would have been important. But with it, it was absolutely critical. And the great thing is that yourself and Robin and the Inform team really embraced that change and helped us to use Teams. So Microsoft Teams is the tool of choice at Ordnance Survey. We used that and embraced it for communicating and engaging with all of the teams across Ordnance Survey during that difficult time. So, it was absolutely critical. And then you asked from a personal perspective. For me, the pandemic was very challenging, as it was for many people. I wasn't affected in as many bad ways as others are, but actually it provided an opportunity for me. Whereas I found that I could do my job remotely. I could do my job working from home. At the time, working from home was Southampton, because I used to be in the head office 5 days a week. But actually, my family are all up north. All my friends are up north. They're all in Leeds, Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester. So, this opportunity of the pandemic, showing that I could work from home, gave me the impetus and to ask Ordnance Survey to allow me to relocate. So rather than work from home from Southampton, what's the difference between me working from home in Southampton versus working from home in my new location, Manchester? So that's what I did. I asked the question, and OS very gracefully agreed. So during the pandemic, back in December 2020. I made the move up to Manchester, and for the last year I've been doing my job from there. And the results speak for themselves. We're still delivering. The team is still doing an incredible job, and we have a really good way of hybrid working, both sometimes in the office, with some people in the office in Southampton, other people working from home, people working in the office 2 or 3 days a week, other people working from home permanently, all over Britain. So the technology is a massive enabler by that. And I think we OS have embraced that technology really well, but also the Inform team have embraced that technology as well.
And I'm just thinking about the point that you raised there about the fact that you were in fact one of the trailblazers. You were the first really to make that move, knowing about the capabilities that the job could be done. You had the right tools to do the job. But, you know, like you say, you spent a year in Manchester away from head office. Have you used tools such as Teams for like recruitment purposes? And has that been different, you know, interviewing somebody on Teams versus in real life?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I've done several things via technology. You know, the first of which is I did a BBC television interview via technology. You know, it wasn't in face to face. Yeah, exactly. You know, one of the things that makes me blush, but it's a very good example where I wasn't in a studio. I wasn't in, you know, I wasn't in the media office in Southampton, in the headquarters. I was in my daughter's bedroom. I was using her high chair as the stand and using books to prop up the laptop. And, you know, the technology worked. It meant I could go on to a live BBC News interview for 5 minutes. It meant that they could see me, I could see them, I could hear them. I could get my points across about the value of Ordnance Survey's data during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it worked. You know, you can't say better than that. That's very kind. I think I was average at best, but it was very kind. Good. You know, and so that's one example. You know, there's been lots of radio interviews I've done, which has done the same. There's also been, you know, things around, like I say, interviewing for both people to recruit into. Yes, absolutely, done lots of that. But really, I think when you talk about interviewing, I think the pandemic and the technology, importantly, has allowed us to see that you can recruit people away from the office. So, you know, we now recruit a lot more people away from Ordnance Survey headquarters in Southampton, so that we get the best person for the job, not necessarily the best person who is willing to locate in the Southampton office. Yeah. And that's been a real change in looking at who then applies for jobs, because it's meant that we could tap into a much wider resource to get the best possible talent. So we've really embraced that. In fact, we have whole new categories of workers at OS, of people that are able to work from home wherever they are in the country. So that they can get the best possible person. So yeah, really embrace that. And Teams has been fantastic, as has a number of other tools as well. But yeah, really loving it.
So do you think, though, I mean, work in a data-led industry, you know, we've just been talking about the heavy use of technology. How do we keep the essence of people and those connections alive when, you know, we don't see each other? Well, we haven't seen each other for a year.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point to make technology work for what you want it for. So, you know, I think there's a risk that you do back-to-back meetings 24/7, and tools enable that. You know, you don't have to go between meeting rooms. You don't have to stop for a coffee break. You don't have to, you know, be caught by someone in a conversation. But some of the best things happen when you just dedicate time to people. So I think you have to really make sure that you are dedicating that time to non-work related things. So, you know, I remember we have you know, a team meeting on a Friday morning, and we have the small team of us catch up, and we're not allowed to talk about work. We have a half an hour where we laugh about the fact that someone's made an idiot about themselves, or someone's got a handover, or someone's got these plans for the weekend. That's a really important thing. And same as I remember, you know, we've had instances where we've done cocktail nights. You know, I remember doing cocktail nights for when someone left, and we had a nice party for them leaving, and we did cocktails all evening. And you know, one or two people had a few too many cocktails, didn't they, Michelle? And you know, you get to the stage where, you know, but that's still all over technology, because we couldn't have got together. You know, we were a team. Some people based in Southampton, some in Manchester, some in Bristol, some in London, and you couldn't really have done that very easily without, especially during a lockdown, you know, without the technology. But there you can see that you make the technology work for you. We wanted to have a social catch up, and we had it. And then, you know, we used several of Robin's terrible quizzes as well. But, you know, again, trying to make sure that you do have those human to human connections, not just talking about work. But that's just about, for me, it's about making time for those connections and not just using your time for talking about work items all the time. I think sometimes technology can be used as a blaming tool, whereas actually I see it as an enabler. So I think, you know, it's how you embrace the technology is the important thing, not the technology itself.
And can I be so brash and bold as to ask you, you've worked with us for some years now, what for you is the informed difference? If you were to think about other consultancies that you've worked with in the past, what's different about us for you?
Okay, so that's a great question. So we have worked with, I've worked with a lot of consultants over the years and consultancy firms. I think the two things that really stood out to me is how quickly you became part of the team. So you really got involved with the team as individuals. So making sure you brought yourselves to the project was a really big thing for me. So getting to know you and Robin and Katie and others, Tom, was a really big part of getting comfortable with you and you really understanding what we were trying to do. So I think it's a bit of a trite comment, but you being humans and being part of the team was a really big point. So you actually never really felt you worked for Inform. It always felt like you worked for Ordnance Survey, which is a really important thing for me. But conversely, the other thing that was really good was that you do work for Inform and you were able to call back into head office, or we call it Inform Towers. You could call back to Inform and get experts to help out when it was needed. So using brilliant people like Katie Burrell to start to use her communications expertise when we needed that at times, or Tom Dunmore. Those people were able to be brought in at the right times to support you and Robin and to support Ordnance Survey. So it was having you and Robin as so deeply embedded in what we were doing as part of the team, but also you being able to reach back and get that expertise when it wasn't yourself or Robin being the best person for it was really valuable.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear. We certainly do feel part of the team, and it's like I said earlier, it's just been such a great experience. So Chris, I just want to say thank you for your time today. It's been lovely catching up with you, and just hearing about the challenges and your great life up north now.
Yeah, you're always welcome to visit me, Michelle. You know that.
Yeah. Well, at least you've got one friend down south. I'd say that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You can take me out for a few beers one day.
I'd love to. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.